Afternoon all. I thought I'd do an experimental video. I'm not going to use the chess-based client to show you games from this classic Botvinnik-Bronstein match of 1951. I think it is a very special match because at the moment I feel very close to Bronstein. Why he was playing the openings the way he did, why he played the way he did, is because really he was like a chess artist. He wanted to create beauty on the board. And at the same time, though, he was reaching the highest echelons. And in 1951 was challenging Mikhail Botvinnik, the kind of father of the Soviet chess school. The students of the Botvinnik school included Karpov, Kasparov, Kramnik, Shirov. They were all students of Botvinnik. Botvinnik was a fantastic worker and was the only world champion to really defeat a lot of challengers. Getting revenge on some of them, like Mikhail Tal or others. So basically, though, in 1951, we see this wonderful photo of the Tchaikovsky concert hall. So this was in Moscow, and I was wondering where this photo came from. It was always on my Barnet Chess Club.com site in the drama section. I wasn't quite sure where it came from, but I believe now it's this match. Now, the unique thing of this video, you're probably never going to see the draws of this match because they're a bit too dull for most commentators to even look at. So I'm not going to bother with chess-based light. The purpose of this video is to inform you of the games and provide a little bit of insight. I'll try and provide a little bit of insight of each game, and we'll just use the ChessGames.com default browser to go through the games. So the overall match, it was 12-12. You see, this is why many people consider David Bronstein to be an uncrowned king of chess. The term uncrowned king, or other terms, when they could so easily, it seems, have been world champion. And when you become world champion, your games are a lot more celebrated. And, you're put into that fantastic hall of fame, basically. And more books are generated, more interest naturally. So in many ways, it's a shame he was never a world champion. But his games, speak for him, and he played, as we were seeing, really fantastic creative games, which I think should inspire us, even in this engine age of deep, clinical materialism, etc., clinical play. I think a lot of us are now playing blitz chess, play for clubs. We can have fun. I'll just close this off. How annoying. So we can have fun with our chess, and he showed that, back in the 50s. But this match had some hard-fought games. So we see here, it started off actually with 4 draws. Then Bronstein won in game 5. But then he lost 2 in a row, 3 more draws. And then he won again in game 11. He lost in game 12, 4 more draws. Then in game 17 he won. Then in game 19 he lost. And then two more wins, which took him to the point where he just needed 1 point out of his last 2 games. Unfortunately, he lost game 23 and drew game 24. So that's the story of that match in 1951. Let's have a look at the games to see if we can get some insight. So I'll take it from here. Chess Games have given me, ChessGames.com is a brilliant site, and they have given me permission to use their site for videos. I'm hoping this game will be in the viewing area. Let's just play over it with a little bit of commentary. So excuse the lack of circles or arrows. So this was game 1. Really, I just want to inform you of this match and the game, so you've got a basic awareness. Maybe we can take later specific games and analyse them using the chess-based client, but I just wanted to see if we can get a nice overview of the entire match, potentially, in this video. So it's going to be potentially a long video. I don't know. I hope I can bring myself to go through these games now. So this is the first one. It was a draw, though, so maybe it's not too complicated if they had agreed to draw. So Mikhail Botvinnik playing white. Okay, so fianchettoing, and it's solid for white, obviously. we see, I think this move d6 signifies black's intention. Usually queen e8, queen h5, and then, you know, striking out maybe bishop d8 to protect c7 later and e5. I think that's one of the usual plans. Okay, so now we see e5, we see queen e8. So I'm a little bit right so far. Queen h5, it looks kind of attacking, so he was out for the attack with this kind of opening system. It wasn't like a queen's gambit declined or something. But taking on f5, usually white's trying to win the e4 square. Now f3, so maybe white's plan now is g4 and knight g3. Okay, just making sure I can't. Oh, I can actually highlight the squares a little bit like that. That's cool. So I'll bear that in mind. So queen g6. I wonder if we can even do some analysis. G4. Yes, we can even move pawns back. Okay. But now I'm going to have to reload the game. Oh, bishop e3. We can go back to the game. Good. So we can even use this as a mini analysis board. Brilliant stuff. Okay. So f3. White's trying to, you know, seal control of the g4 square. So Mikhail Botvinnik, he's accepting black's got a little bit, you know, seemingly counterplay, but by doing that ef, it's about usually doing g4 and knight g3 later. And in fact, g4 now. Okay, so bishop d3, interrupting knight g3. So I guess the bishop's going to be evicted. Queen c2, offering exchange of queens, which with the exchange of queens, black can hardly get an attack now. I think that's a problem. So now Mikhail's tied down to d5, but it's enough to protect d5 from the three attacking pieces. So bishop a6. I think so. Black's got an active looking position. Bishops are both active. Nice use of c4. Exchanging off the dark square bishops, might be trying to get access to the dark squares here. So AB, a little bit of dynamic maybe on the A file. But yeah, so David's active in this game, but now we see a repetition. So that was the first game. I hope there was a tiny bit of insight there. So this is not the usual chess-based client. It's just an experiment, this idea of just going through the entire match. So we see, what is this? This is the Dutch defense classical variation. So the classical variation where it's not a stone wall. You're not permanently doing damage to your dark squares. In fact, you're trying to strike out with e5 and try for this queen e8 to h5 maneuver. Okay, so that was interesting. So this e takes f5, seemingly controversial, but it's trying to get the e4 square. And then we see this idea of this bishop d3, and I'm trying to be a nuisance. Otherwise, you know, white will play knight g3, maybe even g5 and knight e4 at some point. So I think that's my interpretation of this game. I hope maybe that's interesting. So here, even though black's got the double pawns, it's harmless here. There's enough play. If white can't really even avoid this now. If he played, I don't know, here he can't play rook d1 because he'll be losing the b2 pawn. So anyway, draw. Let's go on to game 2. Okay, so game 2. If we click back, go into game 2. So this was another draw. So David Bronstein playing white. So Grunfeld defense is the Spassky variation. Spassky variation with this. I think Spassky used it to beat Fischer once. So what is white's plan here? Maybe to play f4, f5, but no, d5. So the big threat, maybe knight d5. Okay, capturing away from the centre, trying to maybe celebrate the d5 knight's outpost. Okay, reinforcing d5. Okay, c5, pass pawn. It looks as though David's doing very well here in this position. So making sure d5 is fully secured. Okay, black's got a potential 2-1 here as well though. So I guess, is it difficult for either side to make progress? Here, so this b pawn's looking a bit dangerous. Then there's curious knight b6, so interrupting and trying to win maybe the b pawn. But here I think queen takes b4, there's rook b6. So that's not on. I'll just show you that. Queen b4, there'll be rook takes b6. So if we go back there and go onto the main variation again, so rook c1. Okay, and this is rook's protected by the queen, so there's no rook b6s here. So b3. So black's got maybe enough counterplay. Mikhail's created enough counterplay here. Okay, and now he's putting pressure on that e4 pawn. So e4 is now a little bit vulnerable, a bit uncomfortable. And actually, sorry, this was an exchange that rook b4. Wow. So there's dynamism in these games, which even in the draws, which you'll probably never see on YouTube, because people just assume that they're dull. But actually, rook b4 is an exchange sack, trying to undermine white's centre, given the opportunity. E4 is so vulnerable here. It also gets rid of white's big knight on d5 at the same time, so it can't be that bad to get this position. Queen e4. Okay, but why isn't the bishop hanging here? Okay, was there a reason there why rook takes e6 was not possible? So that's another big question. Wow. If rook takes e6, I guess there's something quite obvious here, which I'm totally missing. Oh dear. What is going on here? Queen takes h4. So king e1. You draw by perpetual at the very minimum, but actually it's mating, I think, with rook h4. That's mate. So something to be aware of. Let's go back to that. So queen takes e4. See the dynamism, even these draws which you would have never seen before. That rook b4. So maybe Botvinnik was a pretty tough and dynamic opponent then to play such moves. So rook d6, queen e4. Okay, so taking that was a variation. Let's go back to the game variation. Pardon me. So bishop f2. Back at bishop f2. That's why bishop f2 was played. So check, queen f5. So although the exchange down, the trump cards have been removed. The big knight on d5, and black remains with that dangerous b pawn. And I don't know. There isn't any tactical threats going on here. Is though it's just protecting the bishop for the moment. So rook f3, keeping hold of the bishop. g5, trying to pour into white's king side now. This looks a bit scary. So c7, blimey, we have some drama here. Taking on b3, e4, hitting the queen, maybe threatening bishop e5 to try and distract the bishop to play queen e4, queen h4 to e1. Whoa! And now the pawn's gone here, tactically. But it looks as though, is that cheeky? Rook takes e6, bishop c7 maybe? Queen takes, okay. It's hitting the rook. So a little bit of last fireworks. And we're reaching a position where, unfortunately for David, he hasn't got much here, it seems. So check, draw agreed. So let's have a look at that again. I hope there's just a little bit of insight of these games which you might never have seen before. We're just doing a very quick overview of this World Championship match. It's just an experimental idea I have, that we don't need to go into the chess-based client software. At least here we can actually explore some variations anyway. It's not as bad as I would have imagined. It's much better than I imagined. So we have here, it seems as though white had a dominating knight, but Mikhail managed to push his pawn forwards and then sack the exchange rather dramatically, maybe, after this logical undermining of white's pawn chain at the exploitable base, which is the e4 pawn. So the base was a bit unhinged, and now this exchange sack, which still aims for that e4, and this managed to give black very good counterplay, unfortunately, for David. So g5, there's enough. The two passed pawns are traded and we reach an equal position. Okay. I hope you're with me so far. Maybe have a break if you want. Stop the video and come back in a few minutes. I'll be going on to game 3 though now. Okay. So game 3 was another draw. Okay, so Mikhail playing white, French defense, so Tarrasch variation. So c5, trying to keep it open, not the closed Tarrasch, which would be knight f6. It's the open system, that's why it's called open system, c5. So the problem is David might be saddling himself with the dreaded isolated queen's pawn, which I think he is here. So this parallels other world championship matches like Karpov-Korchnoi. So this is a recurring theme, I think, of many world championship matches and challenge matches. This theme of the isolated queen's pawn being tested. You know, who's more expert in handling the pros and cons of the dreaded, or is it dreaded, the isolated queen's pawn? Is it to be welcomed? So is black able to get some counterplay here for his isolated pawn? It's been fixed quite vividly with these knights and the c3 move. So now this sort of strangulation on the dark squares, but is it enough? So knight f3, bit of re-manoeuvring, exchanging off a pair of rooks, and again the bishop's rerouting maybe to e3, or is it? Knight h2, interesting move, knight h2. This occurred to me in one of my recent over the board games. So knight h2 is not a bad facility when you play h3 to be able to play maybe knight g4. So bishop e3, there's a dark square grip clearly, there's a strong blockade. It looks as though, okay, black hasn't got much fun. That's what Mikhail wanted, to take away the fun. But there is that peg, at least, to hang the knight on. The isolated queen's pawn provides the e4 square for a knight, which provides in turn potentially pressure on f2. But here, with that bishop on d4, this bishop c5 looks highly unlikely to occur later. So in fact, bishop e5, wow. So knight g4, these knights are kind of dangerous maybe on f6 and h6, or is it just going to reroute to e3 to try and just really win the isolated queen's pawn now? Trying to trade off queens, still protecting f2 from the knight on g4. Okay, some exchanges, and again we've reached a more simplified position. It looks as though it's not providing too many tangible dynamic benefits now, this isolated queen's pawn. Okay, it's still fixed. Is white making any progress here? He's celebrating the blockade, going into an endgame now, but is it enough to win this endgame? Now it's prompted to move forward anyway, to the dissolve. Okay, so maybe the idea here, if white can blockade, you can try and use this 3-2 pawn majority, but at the moment, with the a5 pawn, b4 is not possible. The majority can't be used, surely. Oh! Now there's pressure just simply to win the d4 pawn. Does black have enough to draw? Well, there's a few more moves of positional torture here to put up with. Big knight on d5. So now the exchange of rooks. Was this not enough? That knight versus the bishop. Is Mikhail able to do anything tangible with it? d3. Critical moment. d3. What is this? Okay, it seems f4 is vulnerable. If the knight moves maybe bishop d6, or just king takes f4, pardon me. And here a draw was offered. And it was accepted. So that's a dramatic isolated queen's pawn demo. A 67 move game. Which I'm pretty sure no one in their right mind on YouTube will ever show you. So this is possibly going to be the dullest YouTube video you've ever seen in your life. But if you're a keen historian and wanted to know this World Championship challenge match, then that's cool. As I say, I feel a bit close to David Bronstein, so I would like to know myself really what happened in this match, to give the games a chance, even the draws, to have a quick look at them. As we've seen anyway, there was some dynamism. We've got play against the isolated queen's pawn, you know, some clever stuff from both sides revolving around this isolated queen's pawn. So even though white seemed to get a massive knight to d5, and black was on the verge of losing that d-pawn, or was he? But there was this pawn sack which finally sort of prompted draw agreement. the end of the torture because of this d3. Because the king, once it gets to f5, how can white make progress? Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed it so far. Okay, let's move on to game 4. And okay, so this is another draw. So David playing white. Oh dear. And the dreaded Slav defense. Oh no! The dreaded exchange variation of the Slav. This is the dullest of the dullest of the dullest. Okay, why did David play like this? Oh, he wanted maybe a small advantage somewhere. But where? Where on earth will his small advantage come from with this kind of structure? Well, maybe c5. Okay. It's not setting the house on fire quite yet. But c5 and b6. Whoa, it looks a bit dangerous. f4. Whoa. Controversy. Clamps down on e5. e4, I guess, is not an exploitable weakness here, so it's affordable. This f4. Okay. g4. Blimey. From a seemingly quiet, sterile opening, white's using up a lot of pawn moves now all of a sudden, and potentially weakening his king. Giving up voluntarily his bishop for the knight to get a big knight on c5. Whoa, no b6 because of a6. So white seems to be enjoying a comfortable position for torturing black now at move 24. And he immediately gives up the knight. Blimey. Because he's using the c file, maybe, and d5 is a target. Black dare not play, maybe takes at the moment, but now takes. The c file's still in white's possession, but is it enough? It's opposite coloured bishops. Black does a little bit of dynamism now. Mikhail does a little bit of dynamism, sacking a pawn to break open these dark squares. So it seems they're both very, very capable of doing the odd pawn sacrifice here and there, to just emphasise that they're able to hold the position or keep their chances alive. So even though black was looking uncomfortable, he looks much better now. Okay, it's white that seems to have a few weaknesses. Whoa! Queen h8. That's a majestic movement, isn't it? For sure. Queen h8. So maybe the queen can, as well as eyeing d4, it can come to f6 pretty soon. But actually, sorry. The concrete threat after rook c2, bishop c2 was obviously mate in 1. That had to be parried as well. A little technical issue there. The mate in 1 needed to be parried. Okay, and now another pawn sack. Okay, a5. You see how dramatic these draws are? a5. So black holds the balance now, and that was a draw in 47 moves. Now, just as you thought, this video was getting extremely exciting. It takes a majorly exciting turn that we're actually going to cover a win now in game 5. And I think to celebrate this, we should try and flip the board. How can we flip the board? I hope we can. Not that one. What does that one say? Flip board? Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh, okay. We're gonna have to make do then. I thought that looked like a board flipper. This. Okay, cool. We got our board flipper here. Pardon me. Pardon technical incompetence with using this thing. So, David was black. Game 5. Right. So, d4, he played knight f6. And now to c4, e6. So, wanting to go into a Nimzo Indian, which was accepted mainline Nimzo Indian. And we have the Rubinstein variation, which actually called here normal variation, bishop attack. I thought it was like Rubinstein e3, who introduced the move anyway. So bishop d3, c5. So knight f3, b6. It looks a bit awkward to play b6, doesn't it? Because the bishop, well, it's going to have to trade on c3 one white castle, surely, otherwise it's blocked in. Nope, he doesn't. So he's inviting white to maybe play d5 and maybe try and, I don't know, trap the bishop, which Botvinnik, Mikhail accepts the challenge. Isn't a3 going to embarrass the bishop? Surely the bishop has to be given an escape now. See, it's given an escape backwards. Okay, little bit of drama there. It escapes backwards. Now queen c7, we have a little sort of flexible setup from black. White's gaining space though on the queen side, threatening a rather crude thing now. Bishop f3 and queen h2 mate. A fun moment. g3, creating some light square weaknesses. Has David's opening succeeded here? Okay. f5. Whoa! He's going on the attack. a6, stopping maybe knight b5s. So now he's carrying on his development a little bit, and the knight's rerouting to try and maybe coordinate pressure on f3 with an exchange of dark square bishops. Now, is white solid again? Does it look as though white is now able to gain space on the queen side even? Well, where is black's attack? Whoa! f4. Now there's potential attacking resources all around white's king here. Look at these two rooks, these knights and that bishop. It looks lovely. d5, a rude awakening perhaps. Taking on g3. Taking on d5. And now Mikhail did not take knight takes d5. I wonder why. Maybe just takes and then knight e3 would be good to try and win this bishop if the queen moves knight takes g2. So actually queen d4 was played. Now this might be ripe for a positional exchange sack like rook e4, I guess, is worth looking at, but actually knight f6 was played. So black's just content, he's just won a centre pawn, he's got a potential greater central grip now. How is he going to use that? Well, rook e5, he's maintaining his d5 pawn, so it's a real pawn up for the moment. Okay, now there's a tactical threat of knight d5 because of knight e7 ideas. So that has to be parried, or is it? Knight c4. Okay, there was an issue with it, I guess. Well, a3 is an issue for a start. So I'm just thinking knight d5 here actually. Knight takes, bishop takes, check. I guess there's something wrong with this. I think it's just maybe knight takes a3. Okay, so let's go back to the game continuation. So rook d1 by Mikhail. So king h8. So what has David got here? He's about to give up his d pawn. So there's something significant about losing the d pawn back, which Mikhail's not interested in at the moment. So he's losing his a3 pawn instead to get knight d6 in. Is this dangerous for black? What's going on here? He's losing a6. Has black lost control? No, d4. This d pawn's a bit of a runner now. Or is it? Takes on g2. Whoa! Crude threats have just emerged after that bishop g2. Rook f2s, rook h2s, maybe h5 trying to weave a mating net. Of course the back row's weak, so no rook f5, rook a8. Do something about the back row, but this pawn's also still a liability for white. Whoa! Rook takes f5. Did white have to lose the knight now? I guess he was getting done over. He's lost control of the position totally because of this rook f2 possibility. So he's lost his back row threat, so now it's safe to take the knight. Okay, now check is mating, I guess. King h3, rook h5 is mate. King g1, rook f1 is mate. So first win for David. That was game 5. So it started off as a Nimzo Indian, but with c5 and b6. Okay. So we're just reviewing this game, and so it seems black somehow got pressure finally against the white king, especially when holding on to this pawn for a little bit, which wasn't taken. And then this kind of scary scenario, but then the trump cards came together, this d pawn and white's king safety. Okay, I'm going to take a break here. One moment please, I'll be back in a bit.